Good afternoon. I'm Craig Forbes of Alpha Omega Wealth Management, and this is another session of Business Mondays at the Urban Farmhouse. Today's topic is all about business succession planning in the current economic and tax environment. And with me today is Derek Smith. Derek's an attorney with a primary and premier estate firm here in the Central Virginia area. Derek, what's the name of your firm, and exactly in what areas do you guys specialize?
We are a Virginia Estate and Trust Law. We are a boutique estate and trust law firm, and we do the range of estate planning from the sophisticated, complex estate plans to fairly basic wills, powers of attorney, and advanced medical directives. We also represent clients who are serving as executors or trustees to help them more efficiently and properly administer estates and trusts. And then lastly, in a somewhat unique role for law firms, in our corporate capacity, we do serve as trustee in appropriate circumstances.
That's great. So let's get right into the estate planning topic. Derek, before we talk about the current environment, to set the stage a little, would it be fair to say that leading up to the end of 2012, for the last decade, estate planning in the U.S. has been a real crapshoot? It's been a moving target for quite a while.
That's definitely true. Beginning with the Bush tax cuts, which were enacted in 2001, and including the 2010 tax law. The basic estate tax exemption and other aspects of the tax law have changed every year or two, and always with a sunset in the distance, so that we really never knew what the tax law would be until the year actually arrives. It's a very difficult planning situation. And so it led to very short-term planning with more frequent reviews, and definitely a lot of unnecessary client expense because of that uncertainty.
So we knew the fiscal cliff was coming. We knew a lot of uncertainty leading to the end of this year. And finally, at 11:59 and 30 seconds, Congress and the administration passed a new tax law, which included some estate tax changes. Eureka, that gives us some certainty going forward. Tell us a little bit on what that means now, Derek.
Well, it's not that the new tax law changed the substance of the tax law very much, but for the first time in 12 years, we have a permanent tax law. Permanent in the sense that it's on the books until Congress changes it, so it's at least indefinite and long term. So now we can actually plan. We don't have to guess what year the client might die in order to know what the tax law is. So most clients today can pretty well anticipate whether their estate will be subject to tax or not. So that's a welcome change.
Are there some specific numbers people should focus in on when they think about what cutoffs might be to really worry about the estate tax piece
Absolutely.
of this?
The estate tax exemption for an individual this year is $5,250,000. For a married couple, that's $10,500,000, and it's a fairly simple matter to transfer the unused exemption from one spouse to the other. So that's pretty clear markers. Now that will change annually as an inflation adjustment, but otherwise the law should remain pretty much constant.
Well, so that's a pretty good target to not have to worry about. Having said that, it doesn't mean people who have less than total family assets than that don't need to do any estate planning.
Right.
So what are some of the other one or two really important things people still need to think about?
Well, a couple things. A lot of people have done their plans back when the law was not nearly so generous. And as a result, they have more complicated plans than they need, and that's going to lead to a lot of unnecessary expense and complications after death if they don't ratchet it down to something simpler. So a lot of people just need to update from that standpoint. But there are lots of non-tax planning things that you need to look at. For example, you may need, if you have beneficiaries who are either minors or young adults, you're going to want trust arrangements for their benefit, or other beneficiaries who will need help in managing assets. Blended family situations is a very common situation where you need some kind of trust planning in order to ensure that you're going to get ultimately the proper family members as beneficiaries. And then revocable living trusts are still very popular. This is a technique to avoid probate and its expenses.
Gotcha. So one last question comes to mind, Derek. A lot of the people who are viewing these interviews and video sessions are small business or large business owners in and of themselves. At what point does it make sense for those people to incorporate the estate part into their business succession planning? Is it wait until they get ready to sell the company, or is it a lot sooner than that?
Well, closely held businesses have a life cycle of their own, and where that business is in that cycle will determine what kind of planning issues and opportunities that the business owner faces. For example, if you are an owner of a business in a startup phase and you have a lot of debt, that presents an entirely different set of issues than a businessman who has successfully created the business and is looking for an exit strategy. So what you find is, I think, closely held business owners have to review and update their estate plans more frequently, because not only are their personal lives and finances changing, but because of the different business changes that are going on. All that leads to a more need for more frequent review and revision. And then if it's a family-owned business, looking at succession planning has its own set of challenges.
Great, okay. Well, Derek, thank you very much for being here today.
My
There's
pleasure.
very few firms that are focused, in Virginia anyway, exclusively on estate planning, estate law, and yours is one of those with some of the premier attorneys in your group. It's been great. I'm Craig Forbes of Alpha Omega Wealth Management again, and this is closing out another session of Business Mondays at the Urban Farmhouse. Thank you.
Great.